Hey everybody, do you want to make a D&D podcast like us or really any podcast? Well, then you got to know about Anchor. First off, my favorite part, it's very free. It's the most free. It costs no dollars. That's sick. Second part, you can start monetizing with their monetization tools immediately with no minimum listenership. Also very sick. You can now, this is new, you can take any song from Spotify and add it directly into your episodes. And let me tell you, that's freaking sick nasty. So download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today.
Hey everybody, welcome to Campaign 3's Q&A. If I'm correct, this is really just for patrons, right? It's Patreon content?
I think it's everybody, yeah.
No bits, everybody.
Everybody.
Great.
Everybody.
Hey everybody, welcome to Campaign 3's Q&A. I'm really glad to have you here. For now, we'll see how these questions turn out. This is all the things that we got from all of you who decided to send questions to us about Campaign 3. Maybe some holes that were left open, and we're going to maybe talk about those. And but I don't want to get into too much because maybe we're going to do a thing where we kind of do like a 2 years in the future type thing for patrons, and so I want to leave some of that available. But we'll talk about what in campaign maybe you had questions about. So to start off, I'm just going to introduce the crew again in case you happen to stumble on this as the first episode you're ever listening to us. So I've got with me tonight, ladies first, I've got Avon. Avon, who did you play in Campaign 3?
I played Miss B. Haven. She's a Twilight elf, and I played her up the rogue tree line. I did not multi-class.
I feel like that's a shots fired, so I'll go ahead and ask. Shane, who did you play?
I played Lucian Bright. He died a peasant's death, and then I played Fume Snuff.
No last name.
Oh, I thought it was Haven because he was kind of like adopted into.
No,
the
that he was offered to be adopted to the Haven family and feared that William would try to seduce him.
It's a fair fear, really.
And knowing now that could never happen, William, who did you play?
I played Dwayne every day.
I played Dwayne.
I played Dwayne every day, doing the DM even. I played William. William Dare.
Well, I already miss all your characters very much. But again, hopefully we'll do that little 2 years in the future thing as a treat. I don't know. Don't hold us to a timeline.
So feel free to not hold back, Devin. If we don't end up executing on that, don't be holding that stuff back from everybody.
Noted. Just note it. It's noted. All right, let's jump into this. What I plan to do for this is I have to start with the one question I saw in there. If you're in here as a patron and it was you, I hate you. You're dead to me.
Oh, great. Good start.
Good start.
No, it was very funny.
That's a very good start.
No, you can't ever see bad things about anybody. You know, that's just. Well, I don't know what that thumbs up thing is. What is that?
You monster.
I listened to it today, but I must have missed it. I may have stepped away from the audio
you missed
episode.
It was a badass song that
I heard everything else.
Shane was doing that one review with all the emoticons.
I just read all the emoticons. Thumbs up.
No, I have heard that. I forgot. I've heard it not in that track, but yes.
Thumbs up, dragon.
Earn.
All right. Question number 1. Why did you feel the need to use narrative combat instead of regular 5e? I am not a fan. Would much rather like you to use regular combat rolls. Well, first of all, not a fan. I'm Dad. Welcome to Campaign 3 of Lawful, stupid. No, seriously, I mean, it's a good question. I think, and I probably will have my companions here echo this. We've done a lot. If you've listened to any of our campaigns, a lot of the things we do character-wise, item-wise, is homebrew. And so what we did with that, and maybe what I'm thinking of is kind of what Shane and them had come up with, was that style of combat that we are using as narrative combat. My execution may have been the thing that turned you off. I don't know for sure. Or maybe you just love 5e's combat rules. And either way, there was times we like doing some things different. We're like trying to spice it up a little bit. So that's my answer.
Let me jump in and answer that one, and then I'll let Shane take the caboose, as he often does. That is a mechanic that we built, and it was mostly at Shane's behest, but we've been through 3 campaigns. And campaign 1, I 100% identified a need for, we're going to do this big, badass, like, scenario encounter, but I didn't want it to be drugged down by standard combat. So at that time, I just, we're going to be loosey-goosey, we're going to do a couple rolls. And Shane in campaign 2 did something similar a couple times, where it's like, it just doesn't make sense to break down in combat. And so as we were going through campaign 3 and we had a break of time, Shane was like, hey, we really should get some rules written down. That way we can follow it and maybe other people will like it. So if you don't like it, that's your right. I think you're wrong because it brings some structure to some good, nebulous scenarios. And it's very flexible. So you can use it in chase scenes, you can use it in large warfare, you can use it in ship combat without having to get into the minutia of combat. Not to say combat's not important, but it doesn't fit every scenario, especially for a storytelling focused podcast.
Hey, my name's Scott Chainsaw. I mostly wrote the rules for narrative combat. So if you...
I really was hoping you'd say, hi, my name is Chainsaw. I'm the caboose.
I'm the caboose. I am the caboose. I did a lot of... I would say chief rules designer for narrative combat 5e.
Yep.
I came up with it mostly out of a need that stems from time. We have hour-long episodes is what we try to stick to. That means that if there is a combat encounter and we run it rules as written for 5e, sometimes that's like the bulk of 2 episodes. And some people don't want to listen to 5e combat for like 2 straight hours. It's not super engaging to the audience. So narrative combat seeks to speed that up a little bit. It seeks to take fights that are often in 5e referred to as slugfests, just because of the kind of the way the HP scaling works in 5th edition specifically. It kind of cuts down on that and hopefully makes it a little bit more engaging and exciting, leading into those big boss fights that, of course, are always going to stick to the 5e rule. Or, as Wayne has done in one of the C4 episodes that's coming out in the future, because narrative combat's still in C4, baby. And in that scenario, Dwayne had us run through narrative combat up to the point where we got into the last enemy, and then we dropped into traditional 5th edition combat for that last enemy, and that was cool. And it was like it was part of a chase, and it flowed and integrated really well, and everybody got a piece of what they like. So we're not going to exclusively do narrative combat, but it's not going away. And if you don't love it, we hope that you stay by our side, just like the people that don't love the traditional 5e combat stay by our side to get to that sweet, sweet goodness, that lawful, stupid quality you love.
Next question, actually. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
If you think 5e combat is slow and painful right now, imagine if Ginge didn't put his magic on it, because I can tell you that Ginge does cut out some of the, like, oh, hold on, do I want to do this? Or let me just takes a lot of the meat out of it, so which really speeds it up.
I can tell you I'm very slow at combat. Even if I know what I'm doing, it's not a good time on audio format.
Yeah, you know, by the time it gets to you, things can change too. It's like, I know what I'm going to do, but then like the environment has
changed. Then something happens
so
right before your turn. You're like, well, that
I've tried to prepare
everything.
For this. Yeah.
Oh, I've had that happen all the time. You're like, well, fuck.
Next question, Abon. This one, so I don't have who any of these questions are from, so don't worry. I don't know who you are if you write these in. This is a good one. Oh, do you? Do you see that as the form?
I've got all the IP addresses, though.
Oh,
Oh.
that's so yes.
Elite hacking.
I don't have that.
Miss B needed more of her story explored. What do you wish we got a chance to see from her, or where would you have liked to dive deeper that you think would have let her story shine brighter?
Giggity giggity.
That's a fun one. I think it would have been really fun to explore more of Miss B's past. Because I have like a whole bunch of stuff kind of tucked away of what she did before the KNG, what she did like before the whole 600 thing. And I think my one regret is not letting Lucian, when he still had cleric powers, kind of like awake all those memories in her, because then that might have been more of an open door to explore it all. I just thought maybe we'll have more unlocked memories come up, but it didn't really happen, and maybe I should have pushed for it a little more. But I think it would have been exciting to be able to tell the story that she and Neo had, like her adventure on. I had like a whole love story planned out. I even told Devin about it.
She's like, I told him I really wanted this to come out. He didn't use any of it.
You know, what I'm saying is you could write a novella.
I think that
could.
people would eat. I'd eat that up.
Write a whole fan fiction, put it on our Patreon, stamp it.
It wouldn't be fan fiction because it's you.
That's
true.
yeah.
That's just
It's
canon.
real fiction.
That's just canon.
Yeah,
It's
that's
canon.
just canon.
But like as a little taste, it was like Neo's adventure with B, and they like go and steal fun artifacts out in the world, kind of almost doing KNG-esque work.
Reverse KNG.
Yeah, reverse KNG. Steal it from the rich, give back to the people that need it. That kind of vibe.
Okay. I think honestly, if you're ever feeling like you need to do something creative, that's probably a really good outlet for everybody.
I'll write your fiction and put it on Patreon.
All right.
However, it does look like Zeebs in the chat is saying I should write naughty fiction with Neo
He
in the night.
would.
Sorry, this is a wholesome podcast.
This is going to be
it's
the only
$69
episode without the
tier.
explicit tag.
Yeah, I don't know how to tell you this. Everything we do is very child friendly, so
Wholesome. HOLE. Some.
gross.
Oh, man.
Just
This
dig
is for
deeper.
William.
Ooh.
Whatever happened to the pen Eshy was living in? I cannot recall an episode that tells how she went from being in a pen to being inside your head.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's because we didn't really address it on screen at all. Basically, there's a moment where William puts his feet in wet slippers that B gave him, and then he just went nuclear after a really long and frustrating day. And at that point, Eshy's spirit kind of popped out of the pen and just was a part of him, because I changed classes from Warlock to the Homebrew Invoker class, so we didn't really address it. But he still had the pen. She just wasn't trapped in it anymore. And because it was the canonicalness is the pen was just the medium she used to tap into William, but she was there the whole time. Is the theory behind that.
I mean, that makes sense to me. It could have been. I mean, because that means it could have been like anything. Then, like, it wasn't just a pen. Like, if you lost the pen,
Correct.
You don't lose Eshy, and so it could have
Correct.
been anything. Okay, cool. Lucian, how do you get into character for Fume? And it says specifically Fume.
There's
A lot
like
of crying.
there's like a couple songs that I listen to.
Oh, here we go. Hold on. Oh no, is this song you're gonna make up? Because Jen said today explicitly that if we did ridiculous songs, he would make more of them. So this is your
Oh
chance.
no, there's like literally a couple songs that I'll listen to. One of them, I got my playlist up here.
Is it Mad
one
World?
of them is
Yeah, is it Mad World? That was what I was saying.
one of them is Ebb and Flow by Larry and His Flask, and the other one is it is Providence. Who does Providence? I can't remember. Poor Man's Poison, I think, maybe.
Okay. And what is it about? I will take it further. What about those songs get you into Fume? What's their for people who haven't heard? Like, I haven't heard those songs.
If you go listen to the songs, they're like Ebb and Flow by Larry and his Flask. I think really covers the whole Lucian to Fume journey, and even like the redemption arc out the other side. And then Providence is kind of the angsty side of Fume, kind of this fall from grace and rebellion against where he came from and who he used to be.
I would love some other. I think all of your characters, due to the nature kind of the podcast, would be good. Like, there's that chunk of time, from the time you are alive in your like what we'd call youth or early years to where now you're heroes in the first time. There's all that stuff in between. We kind of very little touch on, but opportunities. I mean, that fanfic. Yeah, if people want to write stories like what they think's going on, then I'd love to read that stuff.
It's funny for you talked about all the songs you listen to. I just listened to It Wasn't Me by Shaggy, and then I'm ready to play the
You're ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, I'm ready to rock and roll.
Who had a baby with my sister? It wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
Oh, okay.
Caught you do it in the pen. It wasn't me.
Did you help your friend steal my pants? It wasn't me. Anyway.
That one wasn't.
That guy said that was
Breeze.
Breeze
could be the other singer in that song.
Neko seems to be a fan of Providence, so
it's a good jam.
Okay, I will listen to it.
You'd like it.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more. I'm going to take two. These are going to be really quick. Devin, why don't you include the periods where you're leveling up? I'm missing these episodes so I can keep track of the characters. I don't think it spoils anything regarding the story if you do. I agree. I think I've heard episodes where they spend 20-30 minutes talking about levels up and what they get, and I think there is some value to be like, I'm level this, here's a special thing I get, and we could have done that, and I just didn't fail to do that. So that's my bust. I'll take that one.
We'll do that in C4.
Yeah, he says we'll do it the right way. And
then what I love about this is like, oh, these are things Devin didn't do that people didn't like. C4.
Noted.
C4. Oh, that's a dumb idea. We're still doing narrative combat.
What do you feel like is the biggest curveball that the players hit you with this season? I think this one, they could probably answer this one for me. When I started building this campaign, probably a year before it was my turn, I was so nervous, racked with a ton of the what ifs. What if it's not good at all? What if they're not having fun? It was really, even if you listen and you don't like it, my biggest concern for my players was, what if they don't have fun? Because if they're not having fun, that's going to track out to you as listeners. So that was the goal from the beginning. And just knowing like Shane and how involved he is with like his love of puzzles and deep lore, and then Dwayne with story building. And I hadn't played with Avon a whole lot. I just know she's probably a little easier on me with that. So it was an answer where just like I'm gonna pay some attention to Avon, give her a cool story. These are the thoughts I had going into it. How do I give kind of these in real life players things they love about D&D? So I'd started very early, and it was all built around KNG was their hub. You're going to go out, you're going to find items. That's kind of be the side quest, and you're finding things until you stumble upon that one item that's going to change kind of how the story progression goes. But when they decided that the KNG were the bad guys, I kind of crapped my pants that episode. I was just like, that was a big game changer for me. I had to really like veer some things. But what I'll also say is that also freed me up from being every single episode so tied to notes that I had written a year ago. I was able to take some of those. Half the stuff that happened after that was never even thought about, and so
we never had mech suit battles.
Yeah, I know. So that came up later. I wanted to do that. The thing is, I didn't want to keep drawing it out for the sake of things I wanted to show you, because it didn't need to happen. I wanted to have it, didn't need to happen. So they did show up later on very quickly. You saw like mechs coming in at one point, wherever. But so that was kind of the biggest curveball I got. But I tell you, I'm just thankful for it, honestly. Beatrice, you again.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, okay.
I want the players to answer. What's their biggest curveball that we think we threw Devin?
Oh, okay. I like that.
Avon, what do you think the biggest curveball that you threw Devin was?
Why do you have to ask me first? I was
Okay,
like, no, I have to
Shane.
think on it.
Shane, what's the biggest curveball that you threw, Devin?
Maybe
And it doesn't count that you died because that was
Well-
Devin.
maybe killing Ryan in the courthouse. I don't think he saw that one coming.
Did not. That's true. Did not.
That's my best guess.
Okay, Avon, I'll buy you some time. For me, it was one of two moments, and they were all in the same scenario. I'd count a third one, but that wasn't necessarily a curveball. You just weren't accepting it. For the first, it was unleashing everything in the basement on the KNG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of was like,
Fuck that.
does
They're out of
everyone
there.
die in the KNG now? Is it completely shot? But
Yep. The second one was the fact that we were just going. I was gonna kill the director, and you had Breeze hard stop me.
I think
So
I would
I
have
could-
allowed him. It was me using Breeze to say, this is a part in the story that you're not supposed to do. But if you had pushed,
no,
it,
I
would have
heard
been
that.
like,
When Breeze took the hit, I was like, William wouldn't kill Breeze. Dwayne would. Dwayne would kill Breeze. William wouldn't. So I received that message, and William received that message truthfully. The third one is that you didn't like the fortune-telling wall. But
I thought it was very funny as a theme that I thought it was like just going to be a funny thing, and you're like, nope. He thinks
gonna do
this
this.
is a fortune. He's got to do it.
But like all fortunes, they never come true the way you expect. He didn't end up killing the director because he saw the fortune, so it changed. Still a fortune-telling wall.
I still
Okay. I got it. I think it would have been my distrust of some of the NPCs Devin really wanted us to like.
Ooh, like who?
Ooh, like who?
Breeze.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely did not like him in the beginning. I was ready to like kill that man at some point because I thought he was going to be a double agent.
Oh,
Fair.
yeah.
I
Remember
was
took you
like-
out to the woods and was like just letting you fight dudes by yourself?
He was just never was there when shit went down. And everyone was like,
Yeah.
every time shit goes down, where the fuck you at, Breeze?
I'm there.
And then I think there was also the Magic Seller man. Did not like him either. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
when Devin was just very pushy with some characters, like, "Hey, you gotta like this one." I was like, "No, this is pushing me the other way. I don't like it.
Who is it? Who are we talking about?
He doesn't like it."
Wachowski.
Oh, Wachowski.
Wachowski.
Yeah.
Did not like him either. And then there were the orcs. Those ones were weird. But
The
they
motorcycle
weren't as
orcs.
bad as the other two.
Very loved, beloved heroes. Yeah.
It's hard not to love them.
I will say this about Breeze. One of my favorite jokes about Breeze is all three of the players independently just being like, God, this guy's so cool. Like, oh, this guy's so cool. Like, that was a very fun bit to play out. That was very fun.
I don't know that Breeze was ever really intended to be like the beloved, but then once he like kind of formed a bond in the beginning, I was like, well, we'll see how this goes. And it's good. Worked out.
Yeah, it's the Chiringa
You liked him in the
campaign
end.
3.
It turned around.
You
It's
liked him in the end.
Yeah, she accepted him when he was just like, yeah, everything's gonna be all right, Breeze. Or, B, not Breeze. And she was like, cool, I'm gonna take a nap with Fume now, because I'm worn out.
Love it. Next question was for Abon, but then it says it can be for everyone. If your PC died, and then I made you play an NPC that was already in the world as your next character, which one would you have chosen?
Oh.
I think it was Scarlet, the art teacher.
Yeah.
She seemed like a lot
Or
of
Crimson,
fun.
whatever,
And
Scarlet Crimson.
It was a red.
It's a reddish.
And I thought she would have been fun. It had just been kind of like chaotic art teacher vibes. And I think I would have definitely picked her. Plus, she also kind of already had a bond with Breeze in Devin's story background, as well as Rocky Balboa. That's where I would have gone.
Dwayne? Shane?
Either Breeze. If Hume died and stayed dead, and Breeze would have been like an avenging force for him, I think that would have been very funny. Or I would really like to be Groovy 76 or whatever.
Groovy
Oh, that's a good choice.
Yeah, he just like fucking wheels out from out of the bar like, time to protect my home from these demons.
Time to murder.
He's got a shotgun.
Murder. Oh, yeah. And Dwayne.
I would have played either the son of the queen of the Sun Elves, well, not Joffrey, the other one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Or I would have played Marguerite's brother, who was like a caster.
Lafayette.
Yeah. Okay.
And that would have been fun. Old, like, haha, do what I want.
He's very much like that. Like, just did not care about anything. Okay.
Yeah.
Dwayne.
Oh, yes.
What prompted you to pursue the change from Warlock to Invoker?
Yeah, let me tell you. So the prep behind this campaign, the prompt that I was given by Devin was, we're not going to do a lot of combat. Like, just not a lot of combat at all. It's going to be very narratively focused. We're gonna do a lot of scenarios. We're probably not gonna do a lot of combat. So I went, oh, cool. I'll get like a smooth talker. I'll do charisma. I'll do warlock. I'll do, it'll be fun. I got this cool genie thing. I'll hide in the pen. Then we did a shit ton of combat, and my character wasn't built for that at all. I don't blame you, but my character wasn't built for that at all. It very quickly became not fun at all to operate him in a lot of those scenarios just because he didn't have anything in the tank. And so Devin and I were talking, and I was also in a very homebrewy mood for a couple weeks. So I worked on the Invoker class, and I really wanted to tie it deeper into his world. Still gave room for negotiations and some face stuff, but it also gave him more depth, I think, than he had, because his entire backstory was very loose to allow for movement. And I think switching to the Invoker gave some more ties into the world for Devin to work with.
Yeah, and I always enjoy, because you guys are so good at like homebrew stuff. All three of you are like much better than I am, and so the stuff you come up with, I'm just always willing to be on board. Let's make it happen. And of course, I don't know how to do any of the balance stuff, so I always relate to that to the team. But
yeah, I still think the Invoker has some tweaking, but I think it's a very complex class. You're spending a lot of different resources to do a lot of things in combat.
What's interesting was at times Williams could seem like a very selfish character, but his class made him sacrifice himself to be able to use it. Yep. So I always found that was pretty interesting. Shane.
Yo.
From Lucian committing to burials for fallen NPCs early on to his transformation to to Fume, slitting Ryan's throat on the spot. What do you feel was the catalyst for such a drastic change? And do you see him staying on a more brutal path, or do you see him continuing a balance between the two?
The question stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of the two characters. Because they are two characters. I played Fume as though Lucian had died, and Fume was a new man, and that was kind of always the plan. So there wasn't a transition from Sweet Lucian to edgy Fume. Sweet Lucian died, and then I rolled a new character who was called Fume, and he had less reservations.
Okay, I mean I think even I didn't quite get that. I think because when we saw that, sometimes we were like, "Oh, where's Lucian?" It's just like, and you never did go back and go, "Oh, I felt this way." He's gone. He's not there anymore.
That you're talking
Yeah,
about,
it was a
man who was
rebirth.
dead.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take a couple more that are quick. What was your most favorite thing about DMing? Least favorite, and how much do you think you've grown? Tremendously is the answer. I think I've grown tremendously, at least as far as knowing some things that I should get better at, and trying to be better at those next time that comes around. Favorite thing was just learning. I love to learn, and so it was just trial and error, and even though sometimes it didn't feel great, I will still take that all day. I just will. Least favorite thing is also the same as my favorite thing, is times not knowing, and I just wanted it to be fun for everyone, and so when it wasn't fun, I felt like I could sense that a little more, and my players are always very reassuring. Hey man, I had a great time, maybe just this, but least favorite thing is maybe just being ignorant to some of the things that could have made it a little bit better for my team. And then how would you add an aspect of any true friend can whisper my name? Very C1 base, whisper my name, and how would you apply that to the game as a mechanic in your campaign? You know what? I'm willing to probably just, if they were to say, hey, can I just create a portal that takes me to like the best place I've ever been, like a hot dog stand? Yeah, sure. Well, can I just whisper the name of that hot dog stand and it happens? Yep, absolutely. So I probably would have a really good way, honestly, to do it. I feel like it could be like a trump card where I think maybe I even kind of did that where
at the end,
Breeze and them come in through the doors, like they just like magic in through that. So it probably would have been something very similar.
You know what? You did kind of do that when William's like, all right, I'm just going to go fucking open these doors. Yeah, I'll open this door, sure. And then boom, a fucking army rolls out.
Yeah, and I did not. Some of the things I was just like, would it be cool if this happened? Because I was like, I don't know how you're going to get these people in time. Because for me, it was like the time issue of like there's a week left. If it took the
you had
orcs
set up a
2
bunch
weeks,
of pieces in a bunch of weird places, and you're like, fuck, I got to get them there.
The Sun Elf Kingdom has a lot of warriors.
I literally opened the door for you, yeah.
Yeah, and so that was last minute, but I enjoyed it.
I do love the complete improv, and in case anyone's wondering, the improv of me opening the door at the end and saying the same words that I said to go to the Midnight Meadow, that was 100% improv. And that just worked out.
Try to pick up on it. We try to be cool about the things we do, and that works out for
cool.
us. Avon, at one point you drew a large portion of Bee's family tree. Were you disappointed that we didn't get to see more of that? Primarily, just her brother and sister, because that's a good question. Like you do have like a lot of extended. We did meet like a distant cousin, in the headmaster, but.
I'm not disappointed at all. I figured with that 0 to 600 year thing, I figured most of them would be dead because most of her extended family were half elves to an extent. So it was just kind of like, they're probably all going to be dead anyway. I wasn't disappointed that they weren't around. I was like, I did expect new family to be about since 600 years ago. More family should be made, and some will be lost.
We all swore off fucking when Miss B disappeared.
It was because of this that she died.
The matriarch of the family's gone.
No more babies.
Well,
we all give up.
Miss B's the only one who can produce milk for the young.
I'll tell you a fun fact about Avon. Any character that she makes that she loves, she'll draw a family for them.
Yeah, she did.
I have several sketches from like Obix's family trees, and Obix and Kristoff babies. They're all in my like
forever
folders of things. Yep.
But yeah, I'm not disappointed. I knew they would all be kind of like tossed to the NPC side. It's more for like my internal knowledge and happiness, and I could probably tell you details of things that would never come up, but be like, yeah, I have all of this off to the side. Will it be relevant? No. But I also kind of like world building in the people area rather than the actual like setting places.
Again, more you could just do little families one-offs, like paragraph about the different family members.
You do family portraits.
Yeah.
Family reunions.
Yep.
That's gonna be a fun time.
She's like, I gotta go do a thing. You guys can finish the Q&A without me.
Goodbye forever.
Let's see. Dwayne. Recommendations for how to get first-timers invested in the game so they don't play D&D like it's Skyrim. I'm not sure entirely what's meant by that. So I guess you get to take it however you want.
I mean, when you ask a question like that, how do you get into D&D and not min-max it? Yeah. I don't know. I'll tell you when I learned. I really like building my characters to be effective. That doesn't mean I have to play them effectively by any means, but you'll never see me play a wizard without like a +3 right out of the box. I'm not gonna do it. That's insane. To intelligence for my spells. There's a lot of people who think there's good fun in that. I like min-maxing my stats and characters. I don't always do the most efficient thing. And what I say to you is build the character, get in their mindset, and just understand that you can do a dumb thing or do a thing that you know isn't like a player like a good decision, but I mean your character would do it, right? Like there's a lot of times where William got really aggressive, and he just didn't need to be. But like who William was with the Invoker stuff, it all made way more sense to me. Throwing back to C2, Delmore, God, the amount of positions Delmore put himself in for family, for his knights. I mean, Delmore has probably made some of the dumbest decisions ever from like a player standpoint. But from a character standpoint, they all made sense. Like, he fought with everybody in his party a lot of the time. And he put himself in, I mean, ultimately gets captured. And, I mean, to Shane's chagrin, he gave mercy like 8 episodes in because Delmore turned around the fucking boat and was like, we're going to fight those fuckers because my boy's up there. So, you just got to find the character, get in their headspace, and no regrets, man. If they die, just make another one.
Just make another one. Rest in peace.
Can I add on just a little bit?
Yeah, please.
Like, just have fun with it as well. Like, yeah, you can min-max it, but also, I think it'd be really... I have a paladin in another game, and she hella dumb. Would I dump Instat? No. But that was kind of like a choice to make the stats kind of nice across the board, and I had a -8. Or not
Whoa.
-8. Had an 8.
It's a horse.
-2.
Yeah.
-2 hits. But, like, it's more fun to do different things. Kind of thing. And that's the point. It's a game. So if you have fun min-maxing, go ahead, but also what flavors would make it more interesting for you to stay along and keep playing?
And I would say
as well as the other players.
Most of the fun is in the
says something
failure.
in chat. That's true. Zebra says something in the chat, and it's not about min-maxing, it's about optimization. Like, you don't have to be min-maxed to have your character feel good.
I interpret the question differently in that they're saying, how do I get them to play D&D and get them engaged in the story instead of playing D&D like it's Skyrim, which tells me they're like hands off, they're detached, it's like they're playing a video game, they're not invested in their characters or the story. If you play it, my advice, which is unsolicited, but here you go. My advice: if you're playing an in-person game, you can have a lot of fun with props and environment. You can light a cantrip candle that matches your setting. You can hand out, torn up bits of a map that you cover in tea or coffee and put in your own oven to make it look aged, and then you cut into pieces and hand it to different players and they have to put it in. But there's a lot of cool ways you can do that at the table in person, and if you're not, my secondary advice is scared players are engaged players.
Scared players?
Yeah.
Hey, can we re-opt Campaign 2's tagline to just Campaign 2, the Sapphire Seas? Just scared players or engaged players. Because facts.
Exhausted players or engaged players. How do I get some sleep?
Yeah, you gotta be careful though.
Tell me.
Okay. Let's see what we got here. Next is Shane.
Yo.
And it kind of says for everyone, well, what was your favorite thing about your character? And if you had to, and I would say obviously you had to, kind of what was your favorite part about Lucian and Fume? And then we'll pass that on to the rest of them as well.
My favorite part about Lucian was that he just cared about every single person around him more than he cared about himself. Like, universally, he
He's
just
very selfless, yeah.
cared about the people that he came into contact with. And I think it's a really admirable trait. For Fume, I think the thing that I like best about Fume is that he could still laugh and have fun and steal guards' pants, and even though he very literally felt like he was like the burnt up remains of something else, somebody else, he was still able to laugh through that.
Dig that. Avon, Dwayne?
I think, for B, I think I really loved that she was very much in love with family and bonds and like creating very deep connections with people. All that surface level stuff, she would definitely toss it out the door and not really care for it, and that's why she's kind of like guarded up front. But I kind of loved her love of people once she actually fell in love with them, no matter what kind of bond they actually had.
I love my answer because it is opposite of both of yours. I like that William didn't give a fuck about anybody, truly. While he cared about his partners, at one point he blew up an entire room that they were in. Right?
Sure. Wow.
William cared for the greater good. No, it was very almost Lawful Evil-esque, even though that wasn't like really my intention to play it that way. He was going to solve the problem, and he didn't care if he hurt other people or himself. Obviously, he had degrees of like, hurt bad guys, good. Hurt allies, not great, but do bad guys get hurt? Okay. Also hurt self the entire time, so it's fine. It was very fun to play that way.
That was a good answer. I mean, and all of those are very true. Like, we could see that and you could pick any part of that. I think, for me, the one that stands out for Avon and that and Miss B is probably Dean, as you see that develop over time.
The fucking metal armor. William said it would be cool. Oh, it's just dirty. Let me clean it. Thanks.
Is this better? You like this better? You give terrible advice? Thanks.
That was really funny.
All right, so I'm going to knock out a few of these quick ones for myself. We're nearing the end of the questions. So I like this one. What was your favorite part of the campaign? I think the first time that I just got like a super high from being a DM was probably the train sequence that we did where they're fighting on top of the train. That was very, very fun. And I had a great time doing that. We got a lot of good feedback from my crew, and then even, days later in Discord. That always feels good to see, like, hey, great job, really love this. And I had many, many people along the way that would reinforce or encourage me as a DM along the way. And so I thank everyone who took the time out to say, hey, man, great job, keep up the good work. Even initially wasn't the best, that was very kind of you, so thank you.
Did anybody tell you that train mending was a cool spell?
I did a Google, and there was a guy who has Reddit, and he actually he actually has like an upgraded mending spell that if he used it at the 9th level would fully fix a train in just like a second.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, that wasn't a Devin.
Thanks to that Reddit user who's probably dead now.
Yeah. Weird.
I mean, it's because somebody killed him because they're like, you're not going to make Devin right. This is a dumb spell.
So, what was your favorite moment?
Yeah, what was your favorite moment?
Shane, what was your favorite moment?
I love how you always throw Avon. Like, I'm like usually prepping it with like, hey, I want all of you to answer this question, and then you're like, Avon, do it now.
No, my favorite moment is not like anything in particular. Like, I enjoyed the campaign as a whole. It's more of like what happened off camera and stuff. So like Devin presents us a whole story, and my favorite moments is when he gives us these story little tidbits, and I'm off on the side trying to like come up with a theory, and I'll like shoot Devin a message and be like, I got an idea, this is brilliant, here you go. or I talk to some of the patrons and be like, okay, but what if this entire situation, and anything that kind of like spurred on more of my storytelling things to either bring back into B or just kind of like talk off to the side to Devin, because I'm like, here's all my ideas, I need to spit them out somewhere. Here you go, have my feelings. So when Devin would have those storytelling moments, that was kind of more of my shtick.
Well, thank you. I think in part of me being a DM, and we had talked about this several times, there was one, thing when Lucian died and Fume became, that episode in particular had a lot of, like, we had questions as players. Then that was probably the most difficult part of the campaign for me, was, hey, this is D&D. You can't not let a character die. Like, that's just the dice. And so then I was like, well, gosh, I believe strongly that we're telling a story, characters should survive, but you've got people who are experts that have been playing this game for a long time and say, well, no, people listen because, again, the fun can be in the failure. And so for me, it was like, okay, you know what? They're right. This is me learning. Let's go back and see what happens. And so we did re-record a portion of that. And then that's how Fume comes about. And so I think probably I come from a more secure position of scripted type things. Like that's what I learned, but also that's not what D&D is. That's writing a script. And so having to learn that was an obstacle as well. And so, yeah, I fed a lot from whatever Abon would send me and be like, well, let's put it in there. It's in the script now. Like, we're going to put it in there. What about you guys? What's your favorite moments or moment?
I'll jump in. Mine is not a moment; it's a collection of moments, and they are. At first, it was like just kind of like getting used to it. But once I got used to it, I very much enjoyed the 6E moments. Believe it or not, like I laugh at them and joke about them, but there was something very freeing about like, oh, Devin's like loosey-goosey with the rules, so like look for those opportunities. And that was very fun. I enjoyed that a whole lot.
My favorite moment was Devin's least favorite moment. I really enjoyed Lucian dying.
So ominous.
I don't know. I'd never had a character die in D&D before. I've been playing for a long time. I've never had a character die. I'm just really good at it. And, so I've never died before. That moment was tense and frustrating. But when we went back and we did the re-record, and I act out that death scene, I wept like a baby, and Abon cried.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Abon cried, and Dwayne.
I did.
Dwayne, I saw him sniffle. I don't think any tears came out, but I saw a sniffle from Dwayne.
And Devin was just confused, like, how do I DM? What do I do?
I'll tell you what. Let me add on to that, Shane, because you talk about that scene, and I had forgotten a little bit until you just mentioned. That's one of my favorite moments too, because that was a moment where the DM was broadcasting heavily. Devin was like, y'all don't want this, right? We were getting those vibes of like, this is not a fight you want to take. And Shane, as a player, went, nah, Lucian wouldn't let that fly.
No, it was that second murder right in front of him. I was just like,
for no reason, yeah. And you know, William, fueled by rage and seeing Lucian not back down, he's gonna back him up. And so I think, and Mrs. B's, these are her boys, right? So that was a very like character-driven choice to go into an uphill
fight
battle.
we couldn't handle.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny is like things you talk about like what changed and what did you not expect. I fully expected, and I built that like train gang with the intent that they would become a pivotal part of our crew, like calling on them later. Like they would help this crew get this item, and then they would be like, "Hey, come get us later." And they didn't. They wrecked half of them. Fume goes back and destroys them all later. And that's so things never turn out. You know, you can plan all you want, and you just have to let the dice roll and the characters take control of how the story goes. Is what I learned.
That kind of also played into B's like, Devin's trying to make me like this character. No thanks.
And I had to learn to live with, like, that was hard for me to get, is like, I have a story to tell, but that doesn't mean anything because it's our story, not my story. And so if you're hearing this, just know, like, you can have some really cool stuff in your story that you, like, if it was in a book, it would be really cool to read. But that's just not how it goes necessarily.
It's the little characters that end up being the best, the ones that you're not like focused on, right? Like that, like honestly, Findle being such a big part. Like I had him pegged as like, oh, he'll have enough of a part to get people going, but they ended up latching on to his bullshit personality. The door, right? Rail is a good thing. I don't think Shane ever envisioned Rail becoming such a pillar of our story. Like, I know you built the crew to be very unique and individual, and all the crew was, honestly. But I don't think you expected Rail to take the spotlight that he did. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, not at all. Yeah. You never know what's going to happen. My favorite thing about DMing is coming up with NPCs and my big advice to DMs is love each one of your NPCs as much as you love your characters that you play as. And if you can do that, you're gonna really have a good time. And then no matter who the party ends up falling in love with, if you love all of your NPCs, you're at least a little bit, then you're gonna get something out of it. Love your villains too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's a good point because we're getting close, so we can talk about kind of the other stuff we have. But the villainous part, which I could have used to work on, I think in C3, but also left it open because that creature thing that escaped from Nova has gone somewhere. Where? I don't know. That's where we left that open. Like, what is that? What was that thing? Why did that grow? So leaving that open. So like, I tried to make her creepy, but you know what really made things creepy? Ginger's music. Yeah. Which leads me kind of to this next question we have. It was in episode 58. No, sorry, what was it? Blah, blah, blah. They want to know who the voices were that were played kind of when Fume steps on that last landing, and he hears those voices, and we know now it's the voices that are coming from the souls that are in that orb down in the... two of those are my kids that did that, and then I pulled it up just so we could see who else had contributed. Nick was one of them. Dwayne did several for me. I can't remember if anybody, as far as people putting their own stuff up there, but there's a few of us, and so man, that was much creepier than I remember hearing. So
heard it in the
this is real weird.
He went back and added it to the song too, and in the middle of the soundtrack today, it was just hey, it's a fun soundtrack episode, dude, nightmare.
Help me. Okay.
I'm just gonna put this on to take a quick nap. Help me. Oh, well, guess I'm taking a nap.
You want to know what he did? I'll tell you this little tidbit.
Yes, give us all the tidbits.
Like, he makes his songs, right? And for FYI, I'm Ginger's wife, if nobody knew that at this point.
That makes sense.
So
that
he comes
They're always
in,
kissing him.
like, I'm going to bed. I'm getting ready to go to bed. I'm reading my little stories. And he's like, cool, I finished the soundtrack. Want to listen to all the things? And he's like playing all the things. And he's skipping through some of them because he doesn't want to play everything because that's an hour. And I was like, I'm going to fall asleep in maybe, hopefully, the next 30 minutes. And he goes on, plays all the things. And then gets to the creepy one. And he lets that one play. And I'm just I'm trying to go to bed. I'm going to have nightmares. What are you doing?
That's the effect that train should have on you as you go through it.
I like the idea of him mixing that song and like perfecting it and just coming out with like new additions. And just like, I just have to keep going until my wife cries. Like once she starts weeping out of fear, I know it's ready.
Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs
I mean,
up.
I am part of his test audience when he shows
That's the
stuff.
remix. Hey, Ginge, you said we came up with any wacky things. Make the ghosts a banger. Make the ghosts.
Yeah. Just make them thumbs up, thumbs up, dragon. Help us! They'll take us! Help!
We can't do it without you.
You. Yeah, see, that's a banger.
You can set us free.
Some like creepy house music. I know Ginge could do
haunted
some
house
creepy
music.
Oh
Goodness.
We will need it. We will need it.
Let's have a Halloween episode.
The darkness.
Haunted house music is fucking. I gotta.
Work my calendar. He's on a plane right now. It's Texas.
I'm on a plane.
What's the next question, Devin?
What were the easiest and most difficult parts of creating the story and world of Nove Terra? World building can be extremely fun, and it can be extremely exhausting. And you can do a whole lot of work for nothing. And so Dwayne gave me advice that I give to everybody else who's ever told me, and I'm sure he's not the first person to have thought of this, but it simplified things for me so much. Know the general understanding of your world, the laws, the people, the cultures, how it's operating. Just have a general, if I go to any town, how is it kind of operating? Because there's going to be things that change within that town or that city. Obviously, they have their own set of laws and customs. What's the general feel of the world? Then let your players just explore, and it's just as much fun for you to improv and build with them as it is to world build by yourself. So that's what I've...
To expand on that. Yeah, to expand on that slightly, think of it like you go to Europe, you go to Ireland, Scotland, Germany, all of those countries are going to have fields, and inside of those countries they're going to have regions, and each region will have its own like feel. Like North Germany and South Germany are different. If you can just get that in your head, all the other details don't matter. You can make them up as you go.
Sandbox, baby.
No, here's the thing.
No, I don't do that as much, but that's my advice.
Make NPCs that you love. Players choose to interact with them. Not sure how to connect this NPC to the world? Use another NPC. They're cousins. Big brain.
Everything story.
Big brain.
How many cousins does he have? We've hated every person, but they're all cousins.
Well, I need you to interact with the big drug boss for this next encounter, so he's got a cousin that's a big drug boss.
Perfect. Dwayne, if William had lived long enough to find out he had an unborn child, how would that have played out in game? Obviously, he couldn't stop adventuring while Nova was trying to literally destroy the world, but would he have settled down afterwards?
Oh, that's a good question. So, fun fact, Devin actually brought the kid idea to me, and I immediately said, I don't want to role play having a kid. I don't want to do that for William, because it just William having a kid was a really hard thing to structure. But if you're asking me how would I have answered that, obviously William has to go save the world, so ultimately I never would have ran into it. But if I did, I think William's answer would have been to put aside his womanizer ways. Still be a bit of a womanizer at surface level and flirty and whatever, but never actually betraying his betrothed should Marguerite actually keep him. And then I think becoming an Invoker teacher. I think because he was supposed to be a teacher at the KNG when we were supposed to have roles, and then of course the KNG turned out to be an evil thing.
We had to get out. We had to escape their clutches.
Yeah. That we had to escape it, and of course he had to overthrow it, but he did enjoy the teaching aspect. So I think he would have been a teacher in Angel's Grove.
Cove.
No, Angel's Grove.
He's
gone through the door. He's now in Angel's Cove or Grove now. So.
Angel's Grove is different.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of one for everyone, and we kind of we all know the answer, but this is us giving some of those sweet deets to people. It was for William initially, but was William's death planned early on, or was it a spur of the moment decision? And I would expand that to say your stories of how it happened, and then how we kind of discuss it, because it did evolve. I mean, I can specifically the biggest one that changed a whole bunch is Shane's. There's a whole story there we had, but just as the story was kind of going, it just. I as a DM couldn't get it expertly to play out that way, so we veered a little bit in how that went. So I'll let you guys talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I'll start. So one of the things I did with C1 is when we knew we were planning a wrap up, I just reached out to characters and say, hey, what is something you want your character to achieve before we wrap this thing up? Not to say it'll execute the exact way you think. So Devin did the same thing. And I just was when we were talking about it, I think it'd be cool if William sacrificed himself, whatever that looks like, but put himself before everyone else, because the entire campaign, if you pay attention, and I think I executed this pretty decently, he comes from a very asshole, selfish person to selfish, but the more he's selfish and antagonistic, it's to help people, right? Or to help the greater good. So ultimately, having him put himself on the line for everybody else, that was what I asked for. So I think Devin did a good job of executing that.
Thank you.
I don't really understand the question.
So for you all, your endings, I guess they're saying, is how it ended for you, was that planned out early on? Or obviously we already know the answer is kind of that, but how do you think we came to that conclusion of where we were? I'll tell you, for Shane's, we had a thing. What's that anime you watched and you were like, hey, I love this because the dad and the mom, I can't remember what it was, but we talked about putting the souls.
Oh,
in
the. It kept feeling like Neon Genesis Evangelion, I believe, is what we were talking about.
Yeah, because what the whole thing was, it was going to be his dad somehow it wouldn't be like his biological dad, but like this baby who was Lucian was brought to this man who pretends to be like working for this Church of Nova. He's really just a terrible man. He abuses Lucian it's terrible. And so, but he grows up being a servant of Nova, but all this time he's actually had the kind of the essence of Kinos in him actually, and the person who brought him was
prepped
Kinos
as a vessel from a very young age, because he was an orphan. He doesn't know who his biological parents are, but this high priest guy kind of takes him in, and he thinks he's being communicated to directly by Nova, but it's not Nova. It's really Kinos preparing his own vessel, because he sees this upcoming crisis, and I guess wants to be in a position to have influence on it.
So we veered from that a little bit because again, I couldn't figure out that. I'm sure you could just like magic and here's his old paps again, but we didn't do that. Instead, what you brought to me, how did you phrase it for me that you wanted it to him?
We kind of discussed about like the nature of all these souls and how they were powering this apocalypse, and these sleepers, and not sure where that was going to go. And I kind of offered up Fume as like, well, he's already got this black scale, because for a while there, the plan was the whole cast was going to be invokers at some point. It was like everybody would find their scale or whatever and awaken. And then we ended up using the scale as because the lore you'd already established from way back of like the monstrosities that were created with the black and the white scale and moving souls and using that power and how it kind of became for bed. And I said, well, okay, why don't we go ahead and take that and we'll have Fume become kind of a vessel again, but this time for all the sleepers, kind of like a life raft, or like Orson Scott Card, speaker for the dead. Kind of vibe.
You're like an arc for the souls.
Exactly. Yeah. Who would otherwise either be consumed by this malevolent spell or be lost. So.
And I love that he does that. And so like now he's got generations of different people who now reside within him. And honestly, that's one of the things I would say. Where does that look like for him 2 years from now? And that's what I want to see. And I hope that when we get together to do that episode, that's going to be amazing to see. I can't wait to see what you decide to come up with that, how that looks. Avon.
Well, for one thing is I had to go back and see what exactly I asked for. Because I was like, I don't quite remember what I asked for. But basically, I wanted B to have kind of like a happy ending if we did not die in this big old fight.
We're marching to our suicide for sure.
For sure.
We're gonna die, man.
And I kind of expected her to die there. But like, I always wanted to see the happy ending. Like her be happy along with any of the friends they made along the way, and like see and help and foster like peace between the sun, moon, and twilight elf kingdom things going on. And kind of got that.
I would say, do you feel like you got that?
I feel like she kind of got the happy ending, but also kind of like she's in a weird KNG position to where I've already told Devin like more of the stuff I kind of thought would happen while she's taking over director as KNG.
Yeah, I don't imagine she sees Fume much. She definitely doesn't see William. So it's like the people, the friends she made along the way.
She might see Little Will.
That's true. For a little bit.
She does have Little Will. Yeah. For a few years. But then there's also like I kind of also wanted her to somehow take care of Nova.
Yeah.
Like as we got closer towards the ending.
Yeah.
Because then we've built B up, kind of be like this mother figure within the party, and like to some of the others as well, as we kind of like met other people.
Yeah.
At what point does she marry Uni?
Can I share something about the end? Kind of to touch on that.
Yeah.
I had like a same vibe in my head that I wanted to hug / forgive Nova. Like that, so like there's a scene in the end where like it ends up being kind of awkward where Fume's just like, hey, if you put the moon back in the sky, like I promise I'll do my best to help you, like to see your boyfriend and stuff. But like I was like, oh man, she's not close enough. I can't hug her. She's like floating in an orb in the sky.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, but I really wanted to I wanted that reconciliation. I had even played around with something along the ideas of like, well, you did this bad thing. You killed Lucian, but then Lucian was a clone, and then he died, and now like I'm the only one left who can forgive you for that. So like I do forgive you. But it did not come across that way. But I was vibing hard during that whole scene because I was just like, yes, that is exactly. I wanted to defeat Nova with the power of love and forgiveness.
Yes.
All along. That's what.
Yeah,
that's all.
no, I was stoked. I was like, oh yeah. First you get him with the punching, and then hugs.
Forgiveness. Then hugs. And if I'm honest, what happened was I did a terrible job with that last episode with kind of what I consider to be the wrap up. I think if we had published the initial bit, you would have had many more maybe questions for this session. Like, hey, this, and I think a lot of things I meant not to answer, to leave it open ended purposely. So then we did it. We did go back in kind of the last. It's a lot of me talking then, but that's the point was. For me to kind of put a nicer bow on some of those things, to kind of circle around to things that we had missed, but give all the players like hard line stances. We know where they're at, we know what they're doing, and we can dream up kind of what happens next. So you all did get a revised kind of last part there. Yeah. Okay, that's just about the last one I have here. That's kind of for all of you. Is what would your character's favorite dessert be if they had one in this world, and why?
Blackberry cheesecake.
Oof, I want some of that now.
I want it now. Da-da.
I think B would like the angel cake, but like the whipped cream on top would be like made with like a soft hint of honey in it.
With some strawberry berries.
Very nice and light and fluffy. Since
Lucian's time in the cake,
dessert.
yeah. Fume's
so
diet. Fume's diet consists of protein shakes, falcon eggs, and rocks.
You ain't rocking my boulder.
It's training regimen that Breeze put Lucian on back in the day, and he just stuck with it. He just can't get enough of the taste and the texture.
All right, so Rocky Road it is. Rocky Road.
Correct.
Great. Do you guys have any questions for me before we end these? You have like one piece, and then we can kind of wrap up.
I think so. I think I have a question for Shane, because I saw it a couple times in Discord. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on your chess game, like on what you were doing with the shadows and who those were? So, or do you want to leave it open?
So Fume was at the end of the story. He is conversing, and he's getting the stories from all of the sleepers, all the souls that, like we discussed, he was kind of an arc for, that he kind of has saved. The idea being that the unique perspectives and experience of 1,000 sleepers would be immeasurable for this world that is kind of missing guidance going forward in this absence of the gods. and he's just trying to learn and get smart enough to help.
Cool. So I surmised.
One thing I did want to mention. So you mentioned, is there any reconciliation between the elf kingdoms? One thing I mentioned specifically in the end is like now you can see the Sun Elf Kingdom from a distance, so like it's no longer hidden. So I wanted to get that little nugget to let you know they have stepped back out into the world. Now what that looks like, because they're pretty ignorant, as you saw going into a lot of things, but something has changed to where they now anyone can see them, which I believe I was trying to hint at progress with them there. So I don't know about the Moon Elves. They're still pretty BA, and they like to be to themselves, as far as we know. I do. That maybe would be something. There's so many things. There's one last question that was in here was like, what would you have liked to have touched on more? And there are so many things, but there are too many things. You know what I'm saying? So I had to take my players, roll with what story they were in, put in what I could when I could, a side quest or things. But I guarantee you asked. I mean, Dwayne, we're on a different continent we never got to, and C, 7, 8, 9, when we get to that, could be a different, continent. So it's just like our stories are stories, and we'll constantly build on those. There'll never be enough time for us to ever get to all the things we want to do. There's a whole continent not explored in Shane's campaign. You know what I'm saying? So like we go to see
the vast majority.
Yeah, and so we're on. So your stories, get what you can in while you can. Enjoy it. Have fun with the players. Let them explore the land you have. Build as they explore. Just have a good time with it. Coming to the end, I don't know if you guys have any last words, not about this, just in general, for I would say people who are listening and never played Dungeons & Dragons. We have a lot of those come into Discord and say, hey guys, what advice do you have? So I think ending with a little tidbit from each of you might be helpful. Ladies first, if we want to do it that way.
Of course. My advice for anybody new coming into D&D, have fun. Play by 6E until you get it right. Check on information wherever you can, whether it's free online or you actually pick up a DM's book or the player's handbook. But overall, just have fun. Maybe see if you can get a party going. Ask your friends. Ask strangers online. I don't care. Do what you gotta do.
Just have the absolute most fun possible. That's the only goal. And whatever it takes for you to get there, if that means adding rules or taking rules away or completely changing rules or, playing with a huge party of 10 people or playing with, your 2 best friends, whatever it is, whatever in the world makes you happy at your table, do it.
My answer is going to be Shane adjacent, which is your table is not our table. Our table is not Critical Role's table. Critical Role's table is not Dimension 20's table. Make your table your own. Play with some friends. Evolve together. Don't expect another person's table to be like your table. Make your table a fun table.
Awesome. And as we always tell the people that we love,
we love humanity. We gotta do a roll for humanity.
We're doing that? Okay.
We have to because this is going to be a published episode. It's going to be really weird,
as we
wonky,
mentioned in the beginning, you all will be hearing this. All right, so Chainsaw, do the thing.
Yep. Our roll for humanity is going out to... Remind me, Dwayne, please.
It's going to be somewhere weird. We're going to do it out of order because it's going to publish out of order.
Okay.
Yeah.
What month does this air in?
Well...
I thought this came out next week.
Well, that's the thing. Just do Abled Gamers, which is going to be July, because we've already done, we had already planned a different setup.
You wait, hold on a second. Alright, so you're telling me this episode is coming out next week. Is that correct?
I thought that's when it was coming
Monday
out.
the 23rd? Monday, May 23rd.
Yes, which would have been Child's Play charity.
So that's what I'm going to do, is for this episode in this Q&A, I'm going to go ahead and roll 4 D20s for the month of May, because we didn't get because we had like the finale and there wasn't time. I'm going to do all 4 rolls right now. Child's Play charity.
Well, that'll cover all the intros and yeah, I love it.
Roll a 19 for the first one.
Wow. Okay.
Ooh, very nice.
16 for the second one. That is a 2 for number 3. And the last one, number 4. That is a 12. 12.
49.
49! We can make that number grow by you rolling at the table. It's May. If there was ever a time to join us in our Rolls for Humanity, it's May. Min-Max Mankind. It's what started it all. Way back in the distant year, before the plagues, before all the stuff that happened, when life was simple and you just ate Pepperidge Farm cookies and everything was chill.
So good.
You could bring those times back.
Sorry, I just got lost.
Every
You lost
time,
me at cookies.
every time you roll a d20 and donate the amount that you roll, you can bring those times back in your heart. Do it.
But what about Pepperidge Farm cookies? I don't want those just in my heart. I want those
In your
my
mouth.
Did we say this on a different episode? I feel like I'm having deja
Probably.
vu right now if we didn't.
Just talk to me after the episode and I'll get you all your mouth stuff.
Okay, thanks, bud. All right. Dwayne, are you doing a quote or nah?
What? No.
No.
'Cause this isn't my campaign.
This is your last time
I'm
to
so
be
weird.
your very own.
It's called a
the last
crossover,
ever good
nerds.
news.
Do it.
It's the last ever
No,
good
right.
news
What
story.
a cheap shot. You're like, oh, they do that thing.
I want to make it your problem. That's
The
what I just
last
spit.
ever good news story. Do it.
That's kind of
There ain't a lot
bittersweet,
of
guys.
that going
Because I
around right
did
now,
not.
so.
Yeah, I didn't do it. So give me a second here. All right, good news story. I just go straight. If you didn't know, I just go to goodnewsnetwork.org and pick the best picture.
Cool.
All right.
Maybe when I do my campaign, I'll just tell you the picture.
And you have to find the article. It's a mini game
That's a whole podcast.
for C5.
7. Oh.
Mr. C5, I'm gonna leave like hidden notes and clues that you have to like assemble and decode and put through like a decoder system, and it comes out, and it's like a website you go to that I have.
That's what rednecks
like-
call my wife. Decoder. You idiots. All right. Here's the... That's a good dad joke. I mean, there's a lot of things you have to know. You have to know my wife's name. Anyways, the good news story for the final time. Thank you, everyone, for this opportunity. Adjoining cottages, once home to both a man and his clever, beloved bull, go up for auction. Say it again. Adjoining cottages, once home to both a man and his clever, beloved bull, go up for auction. Hey, Vaughn, tell us how sweet that is. I mean, not going up for auction.
Obviously, it's a man and his Minotaur boyfriend that had the place.
I feel like you've jumped your role in this thing. That's good.
You're welcome. I mean, it's
His
sweet,
Minotaur.
cute. Like, they were a happy couple and they lived forever and they finally died and now it's going off to other people to own these adjoining cottages.
The bull's name is Scrunch, by the way. Carry on.
That's a good
Next
name.
NPC, Minotaur.
Scrunch. Hey, everybody, I'm Scrunch.
2022. That's what I got out of
What
that.
up, y'all? It's scrunching time.
Oh, no.
bull. I see red. I'm the top. Yeah, no. That's cute that this is an uplifting story. This just reminds me that this man and his bull can't afford their homes because prices are just going up. And you know what? This person is dehomed. And these 2 adjoining shacks that he probably purchased 20 years ago for $30K in fucking North Dakota or wherever the fuck this is, $2 million. $2 million and half an acre. Because that's the prices we have right now. And they're just trying to sugarcoat this fucking real estate poison pill.
It's missing half a roof. Also.
I've seen worst go for more in California real
The
estate.
land that it's on is gorgeous. House falling apart. Shane, what do you have? Zebra said that's the skylight. Down.
What is a minotaur? Let us talk about it. We all know it's a half bull, it's a half man, but why do we call it the Minotaur? Well, that's because of an old king named Minos hanging about the Aegean Sea in Greece. And he liked to build mazes. What are mazes known for? Getting lost in twists, turns. If you keep your left hand on the wall, according to Alex Goring, you can't get lost. you can't ever get lost. However, you can walk directly to a pit of snakes. You can run into a sphinx who has riddles for you that you do not know the answer to. And the riddles aren't like any riddle you've ever heard before. They kind of just sound like mean, true statements about your past. Like, you never lived up to your father's expectations.
Is that a riddle?
But they're ended with inflection. You never lived up to your father's expectations?
No, it's like,
Is this a riddle or just hurtful?
you never were what he wanted you to be. You must answer
My question's
rhyming three. Tell me the worst 3 ways you disappointed your father.
I was born.
I was born. I didn't die.
And I outlived him.
Okay, those were pretty bad, but I need your
But
top
true,
3.
so-
Try
And then you
again.
need to say it all in Elvish.
Hold on, I have
Oh,
your
yeah,
mother
did you
here.
say-
fucking Elvish. But don't
Yeah,
have
but
a
if you
plan.
have, but if you have any intent to answer when you answer, it doesn't count.
I have to have a puzzle that sucks really bad, or it has like something that we can joke on. Because like I love that we go, oh, it's an Elvish, or oh, don't have a fucking plan. So C4, we're gonna have something that's frustrating.
You gotta have a really rough puzzle time.
I'm gonna do it. I can't wait. I'll figure it out. I'll just make a
Anyway,
puzzle without an answer.
The point is, bulls, although bovine in nature and wildly or expressly
Wildly
domesticated, widely domesticated is what I was trying to say. They are not as good of a cash crop as sheep wool.
There it is. We
Thank you and
did
good. Thank you and good night.
it. All right,
We love
that's
you.
it.
We love you.
Signing
We
off from
love you.
C3. We love you.
Bye.
Bye.